What if the most comforting image in our culture is a lie? A carefully crafted deception designed to let us sleep peacefully at night, so that we would never learn what truly stares down at us from the heavens. We picture an angel as a beautiful human with white wings, a symbol of light and protection. But in the ancient texts, in the holiest of holies, their form is something else entirely. There, between the lines we no longer know how to read, you won't find comforters. You find sentinels of fire and metal, a geometry of pure terror, beings with 4 faces and spinning wheels studded with eyes. Their first duty wasn't to save humanity, but to keep us out of paradise. So how did we come to forget their true face? And what terrifying truth lies behind this pious forgery we call an angel? A truth the human mind may simply not be equipped to handle. Angels. Even if you've never cracked open a Bible, you probably have a pretty good idea of what they look like. They're elegant celestial beings in long white robes with swan-like wings, and maybe a halo for good measure. We're also familiar with the image of cherubs, little, plump, adorable babies clutching a bow and arrow, the kind you see plastered all over Valentine's Day cards. The only problem? According to the Bible, the true form of angels is something else entirely. These are the biblically accurate angels. These terrifying creatures would be more at home in an H.P. Lovecraft novel than in the pages of Holy Scripture. So what are these entities? Why do they look this way? And how did our modern image of an angel get it so catastrophically wrong? So, angels come to us from the Old Testament, the first half of the Christian Bible, or the entire Hebrew Bible, known as the Tanakh, for the Jewish people. The Old Testament was written down in modern-day Israel and Palestine somewhere between the 6th and 3rd centuries BC, though many scholars believe the stories themselves are far, far older. The word angel comes from the Greek angelos, which is itself a translation of the Hebrew word malach, roughly meaning messenger. These messengers show up repeatedly in the Old Testament. They deliver God's messages from heaven to earth, and sometimes they act on His behalf. For instance, you might have heard of the angel of death from the Passover story, who slaughtered all the firstborn sons of Egypt, or perhaps the angel who struck down 70,000 Israelites, and the one who single-handedly wiped out 185,000 Assyrian soldiers in a single night. When they appear in the Bible, they aren't described as winged creatures. In fact, they look just like regular men. In later biblical texts, like the Book of Daniel, some of them are even given names: Gabriel, Raphael, and Michael. This all sounds familiar, but it's a far cry from the nightmarish monstrosities we saw earlier. That's because the angels known as the Malach aren't the only celestial beings in the Bible. There's a whole hierarchy above them, and depending on the source, the classic human-like angels are actually pretty low on the totem pole. In the Middle Ages, a Jewish scholar known as Maimonides drew up a hierarchy of angels, and if you look at it, the classic human-like angels, the Malach, are pretty far down the list, but not as low as the cherubim. Forget the chubby winged babies. According to the Bible, cherubim are human-animal hybrids. We first meet them in the book of Genesis, right after Adam and Eve are kicked out of paradise. Their job is to guard the Garden of Eden from humanity. We get our most detailed description of a cherub in the book of Ezekiel. It begins with the prophet having a profound vision. In this vision, Ezekiel describes them as living creatures, but later, in chapter 10, they are identified as cherubim. His account reads, "And from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had a human likeness. Each had 4 faces, and each of them had 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze. Under their wings on their four sides they had human hands, and the four had their faces and their wings thus. Their wings touched one another. They did not turn when they went, but each went straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, each had a human face. The four had the face of a lion on the right side, the four had the face of an ox on the left side, and the four had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces, and their wings were spread out above. Each creature had 2 wings, each of which touched the wing of another, while 2 covered their bodies, and each went straight forward. Wherever the Spirit would go, they went, without turning as they went. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, like the appearance of torches that went to and fro among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning, and the living creatures darted to and fro, like the appearance of a flash of lightning. The cherubim are nothing like the angels we're used to. Instead, they bear a striking resemblance to the mythical beasts of ancient Mesopotamia, especially the Babylonian lamassu, which had the wings of an eagle, the body of a lion, and the head of a king. These creatures served as guardians of sacred places like temples, palaces, or city walls, a role strikingly similar to the biblical cherubim. They also share a likeness with their Egyptian counterpart, the Sphinx, or the Hittite griffin. Many believe that these biblical angels are the descendants of Mesopotamian mythology. There was a lot of cultural exchange happening back then, with similar mythical creatures popping up across different regions. The cherubic image in later Christianity was likely borrowed from Greek and Roman myths, inheriting features from Cupid or Puto. Moving up the ladder, we meet the seraphim. They have 6 wings. 2 are used for flight. 1 pair covers the angel's face, and the 3rd covers its feet. They are described in the book of Isaiah as follows. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. In medieval Christian theology, the seraphim are the highest rank in the angelic hierarchy. They are the keepers of God's throne, endlessly chanting, Holy, 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 all day, every day. So, the seraphim. Their name comes from the word seraph, to burn. So seraphim might mean something like the fiery ones. Okay, but what's their origin story? A deeper dive into the name seraphim reveals a more serpentine origin. The Hebrew word for a venomous desert snake is seraph. In ancient Egypt, the cobra was often called the fiery one, and its image, the uraeus, was worn on the pharaoh's headdress. So, seraph might be the Hebrew term for a cobra, which could be where the seraphim got their winged appearance. And now we come to the strangest beings in the entire Bible, the Ophanim, also known as the wheels. They are a pair of interlocked golden wheels covered in eyes, which float and drift through the heavens. In the same vision from before, Ezekiel describes them next to the cherubim. I quote, As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures, one for each of the 4 of them. As for the appearance of the wheels and their construction, their appearance was like the gleaming of beryl. And the 4 had the same likeness, their appearance and construction being, as it were, a wheel within a wheel. When they went in any of their 4 directions without turning as they went. And their rims were tall and awesome, and the rims of all 4 were full of eyes all around. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures rose from the earth, The wheels rose. Wherever the Spirit wanted to go, they went, and the wheels were lifted up along with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. The wheels are the beings whose purpose is to carry the throne of God, making them some of the holiest and by far the weirdest creatures in the Bible. So where did these wheels come from? There's no consensus. Conspiracy theorists believe Ezekiel was describing a UFO due to their strange shape and movement. Or, given that this all happens in a psychedelic vision, it could have been the result of the prophet ingesting some kind of hallucinogenic plant. More down-to-earth scholars interpret the wheels metaphorically, as a symbol of God's unknowable nature, or offer other, often highly complex, interpretations. But in the end, nobody really knows anything more about the wheels. They're never mentioned again. There's some debate as to whether these Lovecraftian nightmares, known as Cherubim, Seraphim, or Ophanim, are technically angels at all. Celestial beings might be a better term. Either way, the biblical vision of the heavens shows it's not just the exclusive domain of beautiful, winged humanoids. If heaven is real, you might just be spending eternity in the company of these winged monstrosities. We're grateful you've stuck with this story to the end. The tale of angels and their secret, terrifying origins has been a truly captivating one. There are many more such investigations to come, and we hope you'll continue on this journey with us.